Whopper. The time is now.
Well, hello, welcome.
Hey.
Here we go. It's NUFC Talk TV, live on a Wednesday night. And again, it wouldn't be NUFC Talk TV if we hadn't got a lot to discuss. It is crazy. We've got Mighty Win, we've got Boki, we've got Jeffo, and we've got Corey all the way over there in Australia. So welcome the panel. We may have another.
And we have got Boki as well, but he's
just jumped offline for a second, so he'll be with us in a sec. But again, welcome one and all. Let's do the housework, and then we'll crack on with the show. So again, welcome to everybody watching across all of the platforms. Thanks to all the mods that work in the background. Don't forget, it's most important if you smash that like button. It just helps us get further as a channel to other supporters. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell for future content. If you want to support us and help us grow, you can become a member. A small monthly fee, different levels to choose from. Your choice. If you've got a question for either of the panel, then try and put a Q in front of that question. But again, apologies, not all of it will be obviously shown on screen. We'll do our best to star the ones that we see fit. But obviously, if you want to guarantee it, then you can use the $sign. Throw us a super chat, and that will guarantee that message read out. If you also want to participate in our prediction league, you can come on board. It's a £5 entry fee. And if you can predict the Newcastle scores for this season and you end up in the top 6, then you get a prize. Easier said than done, if I'm honest. But there you go. Welcome one and all. How are we this Wednesday evening? It seems, again, like bloody Groundhog Day, doesn't it? £40 million bid goes in for Wissa. 35 plus 5, which I thought was exactly where it should be. I think that was, for me, the pinnacle, if you like. It was a good reach out there to say that we're interested and we want this lad in the squad for Monday. And I thought that would have been accepted. But obviously, in our current climate and our current situation, a lot of clubs out there now will see us in a desperation. And there will formidably be a lot of tax added. And obviously, Brentford are in a similar situation to us. They don't want to lose their stars. Staying in the Premier League for them is really important, and they've already lost quite a few players. So do you think then now, as this 35 plus 5 has been rejected, Newcastle should move on? Or do you think they should go to 40 plus 5? And if Wissa is the one, he's the lad that they've identified to actually step in and give us the option, do you think we should proceed? I think we should have one more go at it, and it's got to be done today for me. If that's the lad that they've identified and want through the door, I think there should be a 40 plus 5 be put through tonight. So come tomorrow morning, they should move on if that is rejected. That's my thoughts. What's your thoughts?
Well, on the basis that Spurs have now been reported as, and obviously Thomas Frank's there now, as being interested in him, if they can get Crystal Palace to take Richarlison as part X for Eze, and so that's a bit convoluted, but we've got to get a striker. It's as simple as that. Got to get a striker. But before we start on that, we haven't actually heard from Jeffo, Corey, or indeed Boki about the two conflicting Isak statements. So should we start off just by try and get this out the road, and let's see what these guys have got to say.
Well, if I'm honest, I do want to come back again to the Isak story to towards the end, well, not towards the end of the show, but somewhere in the show, because again, the way I look at this now, with it being media driven, and there's certain things that have caught my eye over the last few days, certain things that have been said, and obviously there's a lot to read into both sides of the story, and you look at it, and I think if we can win, if we can just concentrate on the Wissa story now, and then when we try and obviously look at the Isak scenario, because I know everybody, I would imagine in the chat, are absolutely sick and tired of reading and listening to
And me.
the same pounding of the drum. But I'm interested in what you guys have got to think about with what's been written. So if we can, let's just finish the Wissa story.
Okay, well,
Because
like
that to me is the link that obviously for me is very important now, as we are coming up to that 11th hour before registration, not available for the game. What's your thoughts on where he is and what we should go to?
I think 50 max. 50 max, whether it be 45 and 5, I just go and say, look, there's 50. Take it or leave it. But I don't think we should be wasting time, any more time on this. They're either going to sell him or they're not going to sell him. And we are certainly not going to go to, I can't imagine us going to 60. That is getting your pants taken down. So that's where I stand on that. I'd say 50 absolute tops. Not a penny more. Take it or leave it, and get out of there, and then move on to new targets if it's a no. That's where I am.
Jeffo?
Yeah, I think I'd be done at this point. I think this is the time to jump off. I think we've been round the merry-go-round this summer already. I think the PR reputation, etc., has already taken enough of a hit with the rejections. We started to become Rejection FC, although we managed to turn it around, bring in a couple of good signings. We kind of got on this good run, and then this is like the latest shut off. But it's still in the balance. But what I would say is, yeah, I don't think he's worth any more than what we've offered right now. Like, that's the ceiling. Bearing in mind he's going to be 29. He only loses value from there. I reckon we get 2 good years out of him. Value declines. You can't get your money back.
Less the ANC team.
So I think it's one of them ones where we are desperate, though. But I would rather pay 45 million for Rodrigo Muniz on the basis that there's a lot of potential there. He's 24. He's built, he's strong, he's quick, he's an ice cold finisher. And as everybody loves to say, Eddie can do a bit of work with him. Yeah. So you can imagine the beast he would become at 27 if Eddie has a couple of years to work with him. So I would actually divert funds and go for Rodrigo Muniz now.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't fault the intent with that.
Logic.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's like I said, it's not as if he's not got Premier League proof behind him. I mean, he's shown that he can do it. In a pretty average team at Fulham, to be fair. So again, it's about trying to find
harsh.
Well, like you keep on saying, I mean, your favourite words are 38 games proves where you should finish. So if on that basis alone, them finishing, 10th or below, there should be an average team. And that's not me being harsh. I think, like I said, I try and be realistic. They have got some right good names there. But again, they seem a total inconsistent team. And I think that is the biggest problem. Terence Anchors, thank you very much for your £5 super chats. Hello, guys. 50 million is far too much. He's 29. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I would have thrown the 40 down as cash and try and do a couple of sweeteners. And if that led up to 45, that would be, like I said, and even now, I feel really out of breath saying that for a 29-year-old. But I think the difference with Muniz for me, and again, this is, I'm trying to go into Eddie Howe's approach here. Eddie Howe likes a little bit of experience to run them lines. That's why I can't understand why he's got Gordon up there. Because that, to me, goes back on his philosophy of having a little bit of experience to work the channels. And then when you surround the player up top to be more or less a standing alone type of player to work his own magic, and we've saw it with Isak. You know, there's a number of times we've criticised the tactical setup because there's a lot of space between himself and the rest of the players at times. For me, you need a player that can create something for himself at times. Now, what I like about Wissa is the fact that he's not frightened to put his head where it hurts. I've seen him a lot of time go in and, you know, dive for a ball at waist height, not fearful of getting kicked in the face type of player. And again, that just goes, for me, it's about that desire to get the ball first. I don't see that enough from other players of a younger ilk. And that is where I'm trying to balance my head to say, like, listen, you know, I understand why, you know, at 29 years old, Eddie Howe wants this player more than the likes of Muniz. I mean, Muniz is a good shout for me at 45 million. And if I'm honest with you, Jeffo, if we've thrown down 90 for Sesko, why can't we go for the two of them? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You've got experience. You've got a young lad that can work the channels. If you're that, you know, if you're looking deep into this, be really greedy and say, you know what? Not only are we going to keep Isak, but I'm going to go for two forwards as well. One that's going to learn the trade, and then you can move Asula on to work his magic in the Championship, where the lad can grow confidence. Because without games, without minutes, that lad is literally going to go backwards, not forwards. And that's a really good shout, mate. I like the idea of that one. Corey, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, mate. I think you know, at the point we're at in the transfer window, I think Wissa, you know, you say get the two in. I don't think that's being greedy at all, to be honest. I think we almost need two Premier League strikers to come in. Like you say, I don't think Asula, there's too much weight on him this season to even rely on him as a second striker, I think. You know, the price is pretty outrageous, but you know, that's a premium we're paying at this point in the transfer window, I suppose. You know, I think he's going to be a great signing regardless of the price. You know, he's 29 years old. He's been playing in the Prem for the last few years. I think he got almost, was it 19 goals last year for Brentford, which is, you know, great.
Non-penalty goals as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to complement our press as well. Incredible, and that's really important. So, you know, I think it's a great signing. The price, you know, irritates me a bit, but it's our own fault at this point of the window, to be honest.
Yeah, again, another good point. It is our own fault. We can only literally look at ourselves in a mirror and start adopting blame. Bokey, your thoughts, sir?
I think if we go to 50 million, or even a bit more than the 40, it is a panic buy. His age, and he's obviously we're not going to ever see that money back, so it is a complete loss of a buy as well. We do need a striker. I can't deny the fact we do need a striker, but can we afford to, especially with obviously wanting to progress, signing a player like this on a ridiculously highly overinflated price? I mean, we went in originally with 25 million. You can't possibly say that if there's any good negotiations, we end up paying double that. So we end up spending 50 million on him. That's just ridiculous. I think we've offered the 40 million. We should say to Brentford, look, you either accept it by what day on Wednesday, you accept it by the end of Thursday, or we're walking away and we'll go and look for another striker.
I mean, to be fair, the deal that Wissa was allegedly offered before the beginning of last season was that if a Champions League team came in for him, he could move for 27 million. But to be fair, that was before he'd scored 19 goals in the season. So that does increase his value. It can't do anything else but increase his value. But does it go from 20? Does it double? I'm not so sure. Year older, year less on his contract.
Would any other team in the, so if we say this is the top six, would any of the top six teams pay £50 million for him?
No, not top six.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
I think you have got to
Spurs, mate.
start asking yourself though. I mean, again, I'm only surmising. I don't know, what this lad is like. But when you look at the likes of Mo Salah, right, and again, you got to look at him, an African boy who seems to really do well in his latter stages of his career. Never seems to run out of steam. Always continues to press and create for Liverpool.
Never gets injured.
Again, you keep on saying, best ability is availability. Now, for me, what's saying the 29, again, age is just a number. That's what they say. And it's how you look after yourself within, which helps the longevity of the person. Now, his injury record is very good. Doesn't seem as though he's one of these players that hides very often. He did, like I say, he puts himself in situations where he can get hurt. And like I say, he doesn't refrain from that. And the one thing that I think is worth £5 million, and that's the reasons why I said if I was going to go any more, it's because the lad wants to play for Newcastle. And for me, and that is what sparks that interest for me. It's more the fact that, I could, as you quite rightly say, go and spend 45 million on an up-and-coming player, likes of Muñoz. And as you've already said, they've already been offered 35 million from Atlanta, I believe it was. You've put in the chat, Jeff.
Atlanta,
and it was refused and said you were 10 million shy. So we've got a ballpark figure. I think that figure would rise if Newcastle approached them because of our current situation. And I think that is going to be exactly the same as you go to any other player in any other league. Because not only we are closing on to the final stages of the window, so it's very difficult for any other club to replace the striker that comes our way. It's also going to be a situation where you're not guaranteed of what you're going to get because nobody, apart from this lad, has said he only wants to come to Newcastle. And that, to me, speaks a little bit more of a volume, and it may cost me a few more quid. But again, talk about the Eddie Howe philosophy, talk about the Eddie Howe mantra where he said to, the lad who's gone on strike now, I only want players that want to play for this club. Is that worth more value regarding the squad and an injection of another body that wants to play for a black and white shirt? That number 9 shirt that's been touted out there now.
If Atlanta were interested in Muñoz and they got him, how about we go and get Lookman?
Yeah. Well, Lookman, they reckon Lookman, I've just been having a look before I come on the show. Lookman apparently has been investigated, let's just say that.
By Newcastle?
All I'm going to say is he's being looked at. That's because again, I can't guarantee how good this source is.
Well, he had a move, wasn't it? A move to Inter, but it got cancelled.
Got cancelled. Yeah. And straight away, literally off the bat, there was a little message that was said that it looks like he's being touted by scouts. So again,
I mean, the only worry again with Lookman is, of course, African Cup of Nations.
African Cup of Nations, but you're going to get the same with Wissa.
But
you don't want two, do you? Yeah, you don't want the two of them going. No, absolutely.
On loan to Milan, I've heard on loan, not even a.
Well, this is exactly what I was just going to say to you. There's touts now saying that he wants to be out alone. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be there at the minute. He wants to play football. So he's asked to go if there's an opportunity to come on loan. Hello, Newcastle. Hello. You know what I mean?
No.
Where are you? Knock on the door, lads. Foxy's put up a good thing in the chat there about he doesn't like Wissa's behaviour. And we've said all along, as a club, there's nobody in a professional body that likes the behaviour of these players. I didn't like the behaviour of Anthony Gordon. I doubted when he came to Newcastle with his antics when he went on strike at Everton. I didn't like that. And again, a lot of the noise coming from the Everton fans are exactly the same noise that we're shouting now about Isak. So you can't. We can't be hypocrites, and I totally agree. Again, the only difference is he was promised, and again, we come back to Isak being promised, and we failed on them said promises. Different scenarios to the promises that Isak was made by, again, something that we believe to be Amanda Staveley, even though all of the journals now are saying, what he should do is name and shame this person who's promised him something. At the end of the day, the two people that have upset this
and
lad,
what was he promised?
the only two people that have been involved in this lad financially and regarding a promise is Amanda Staveley and Mitchell, who are both now not at the club.
Well, Darren Neal's really, isn't it, at the time?
Well, Darren Eales, again, he's overseen the
He
people.
took over from...
Yeah. So I don't condone what Wissa's doing at Brentford at all. But I understand it more from him only because he's at the tail end of his career and he wants to play Champions League. And this could be his only ever opportunity to play in the Champions League. So I understand that. I still don't condone the way he's behaving, though. And especially don't like the fact that he's taken all of his Brentford links away from social media, and it's as if he's completely void of any involvement in Brentford. So going on again from that is the fact that there's every chance he could come to Newcastle, and if somebody likes of Barcelona coming for him, could do the same. I'm joking, by the way. But I mean, there is the option. There is the opportunity. We've seen Anthony Gordon when our own club put him on the transfer market type of thing and touted him out there to Liverpool when we were in a PSR issue. And we saw how he behaved afterwards. Took him a while. And even now, I still haven't seen the true Anthony Gordon since those days. Are we taking a risk with 40 plus million for this lad if that's his actions and his attitude?
I don't even think it's that guy. We just shouldn't be paying 40 plus million for this player. We've offered 40 million. That should be our limit. And at this point, if this Brentford are saying no, then we'll move on to somebody else. He's not worth.
He's not. So you don't. That should be it now. It should be.
He's not
walk
worth,
away.
Yeah,
because there's far too much there.
Yeah,
I mean, again, that's a really good thing.
It's not worth 40 million, to be honest. But we're in the position where we're at. We're overpaying for him anyway. If they're not willing to accept that, which I completely understand from their point of view, because to be fair, they're probably better off keeping him and staying in the Premier League. They'll make a lot more money from doing that than they will from selling him to us for 40 million.
Yeah.
So at this point, we should be moving away. The major issue we've got is we haven't looked for strikers at, again, the outer leagues, sort of the South American leagues, anything like that. We've concentrated on top-class European players or Premier League proven players. We've sort of pinned ourselves in a box, and I think you reap what you sow, and that's where we are at this point.
Well, we're working our way down the list.
Just to say as well on Wissa, sorry to be a bit fickle, but I don't truly believe that he wants to play for our club. I just think he's desperate to play in the Champions League and have that individual tick box on his resume. And I feel it could, who knows, it could end up where, obviously we know he'll be second choice. He'll get that ticked off his list. And then what then? If he's not regular first choice, does he start kicking up a fuss and then want to leave because he's played Champions League? We may not get Champions League again. And that's the novelty for him worn off. And then we've paid all that money and we've seen his attitude. Now he could easily kick off in the camp if he feels, I should be first choice, and he's not getting the run of games he wants to get. And just to add something, I had a very quick look, and there's a list of a few free players available on a free transfer. Not sure if it's still the case, but you got the likes of Danny Ings, Luka Jovic, Carlos Vinicius, Paco Alcacer, Marco Arnautovic, Luke de Jong, Josh King, Jamie Vardy, and Diego Costa. I mean, if we're desperate, listen, Paco Alcacer, he's a good finisher. He's played at the highest level with Barcelona and Dortmund. Carlos Vinicius, it never really worked out for him in the Premier League, but he did all right in Portugal, I think. Luka Jovic was a talent until he absolutely flopped at Real Madrid, and then he sort of fell off a cliff. Is there something Eddie could work with there? You know, Jamie Vardy.
The Mighty Chainsmoker official fan club. Thank you very much for the $4.99. Can you tell Corey to hurry up? Been waiting for the AA to recover my vehicle for the last 4 hours. Yeah, bless him. He's come online. He's just waiting to go into work, and he's sat in his car over there in Australia. Bless him. Just, I mean, he's. I don't know what's happened. He's gone offline, so I don't know whether he's been called into work. I don't know.
Go to work.
He may have after.
Yeah.
Bless him. Like I say, it's a shame because he does his best to get involved, and it's lovely to hear him. But again, are we going on to? Are we going on to? Oh, he's back. He's back.
Let's get him on quick.
Yeah, Corey was. You've just had a fan club come up because somebody's saying to you, "We'll put it back on." Have you got it, Win?
I'll get it.
Yeah, I've got it here, mate. There you go. Can you tell Corey to hurry up? Been waiting for the AA to recover my vehicle for the last 4 hours because you're sat in your car, mate. Oh, bless.
I've been off now with the tow truck, lads. Sorry about the delay.
Yeah,
that's all right, mate.
Go on anyway. What you got to say on anything really before you have to go into work there?
I think he's lost us, mate. He was breaking up terribly in his car. Listen, the other one thing that concerns me is obviously the reports now that are coming in for the likes of Tottenham, obviously are seeking Eze deal. And then there's reports, obviously, that Richarlison could be going the other way. And then you've got, obviously, he's going the other way to potentially Crystal Palace, which then opens the gate up for them to even look at Wissa, because Tottenham haven't got, will want another striker apart from Richarlison. Even though, according to a lot of the Spurs fans, they've been quite happy with the way Richarlison has started the season. Are we expecting another bidding war? That was my concern from the likes of Brentford now, because they know we've got, obviously, the club's now potentially interested. Again, we all know there's noise behind the scenes. The reporters, the journals get it probably a day later than the clubs have been talking to each other, well, at least a few hours later. So are we in a situation now where Brentford are holding out, expecting a bidding war on Wissa? And like I said, for me, if you're going to do something, and that's the player that you've highlighted and you want, then do something and act rather than just sit in the coffers, play hard, man, as we've done with these low ball offers this season, and wait, because I don't think there's time to wait anymore.
No, but Brentford hold all the aces in this one, by the way, because as Borky said earlier on, Wissa staying at Brentford, if that keeps them in the Prem, that's worth a damn sight more than an extra 5 or 10 million from Newcastle. There is the other side of the coin. If we were to pay 10 million over the top, and that gets us to the quarterfinals of the Champions League and Champions League again in the Prem, and, latter stages, who knows, winning a domestic trophy, that, the fact that we'd paid 10 million for him, it'll be washers.
But when I think we're already paying 10 million over the top for him, offering 40 million is already 10 million over the top for him, at least.
So even 20. Corey, you're back. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm back, boys. Sorry, the tow truck keeps breaking down, but I'm back and I'm ready.
Right,
cool.
On you go. Tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, to be honest, guys, I agree with everything that's being said here. I think any price for any striker at this point, we're going to be paying 15 to 20 over, their actual price. So Yeah, it is disgusting paying that price for him, but I think at that price point, it's probably our best option. I think any other target we move on to after Wissa, if we don't go for him, they're going to slap another 15 or 20 on. So, considering where we're at right now, I think it's a good fee, considering all the options. And, yeah, like I said, I just think they're going to put a massive premium on any striker that we go after at the moment. So, yeah, it's a bit of a rough one, to be honest.
Yeah,
And it just
I
thank you,
agree.
random.
Yeah, Dave H has been gifted that membership, so welcome on board,
For that one.
Dave.
So random gifted a membership, and it's gone to David H.
Yeah, received a membership from
Thank
Random.
you,
Thank you ever so much.
Random.
And if you can, Dave H, then please try and renew if you like what you hear and see. I agree with what Corey's just said, though. I don't think it matters where we go now. I think we are going to be in the mire to a degree when it comes to us looking at a striker from anywhere. Boki was saying about going into the lower leagues. What's happened now with, I know what people say about, no news or news is good news, regardless whether it's bad or good. We are global now with this Isak scenario, right? News is out there across the land of us having this forward struggle. So clubs aren't silly. There's somebody who was saying about going into Milan to go and get Jimenez. Again, 25 million, I think he's touted at getting. Somebody. Oh, Arsenal agree the deal tonight. Connor was saying. So I think that's for Eze, 60 million for Eze. So there you go. It looks like Eze is going to Arsenal, not Spurs. But again, we were talking before, and Rowley keeps on mentioning that there's very few clubs these days do player swaps and cash, and it seems to be because of PSR situation. It seems to be the way forward now. It's very rare that you see a player swap plus cash these days because of the PSR ruling. And again, it looks. I've been having a look at PSR, and I think that's going to be the topic tomorrow, as well as one or two other things for me and Win to chew on. It is. Oh yeah, Clouds is just saying Eze to Arsenal is done. There you go. But again, the Witara, yeah. Yeah, the Witara thing, again, this is where Brentford, and I think everybody thought the domino effect would happen. Now, Brentford are holding back, saying, well, Witara was for losing Mbeumo. So, it's like for them. And they've still got to go out there and find a replacement for him. So, we're all in the same situation, aren't we?
He had 42 for him, but he's only 23, whereas Wissa's 29.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, we talk about players' valuation and everything else, and I think at the end of the day, the price of a player is what the club want to pay, depending on where you are in that current situation. And like I say, everybody knows we are really struggling at the minute for a striker. Irish Assassin, thanks for the $5, buddy. 25 million. Brentford said 40, so surely 40 plus. Add-on should get it. He scores more than Munoz and he's injured less than Munoz. Would you take Salah at 33? Well, that's exactly virtually what I've just said. You've got to look at these individuals and not really look at age anymore, because these lads really look after themselves. Body is the temple and all that. That's like me. It's a shame it's a buddy's temple. But that's just the shape. But you get me. I mean, they are athleticists, and he has proven. So again, this is where I go to. If they have ID'd him and they want him, it doesn't matter what we want. If we can get a good 18 months to 2 years out of him, and he gets us Champions League positions because of his contribution, and we've just seen Win go through his stats about Chris Wood when Chris Wood was here, because again, when we were talking about it, we were all saying, how come Newcastle was the only club that Chris Woods didn't perform? And you know what the mighty Win, the stats man, comes up with his figures. And we didn't lose many games when Chris Wood was only playing 5 minutes.
No, but even when he was playing 90 minutes, we only lost away at Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, and Everton. They were the only 4 games were lost when Chris Woods played 90 minutes.
He was only there for
Finally,
He was only there for about half a season, wasn't he? How many games?
No, it was a full season.
Oh, sorry.
The half of the season
Yeah.
when he only lost the one, which was Liverpool at home, was when he was playing bit parts. But when at the start, at the back end of the season, when everybody was injured and he was having to play, would draw a lot of games, but the only games we lost were the top 6 away.
we weren't putting the ball in the box, and I think we definitely weren't playing to his strengths. Those were the times of the playing patterns of playing Miggy through on the right-hand side.
It was the triangles on the right and the
switched it to the other side. And right now, it's quite funny. He'd be banging in goals left, right, and centre because all we seem to do is cross the ball into the box.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because
That's the
Gillian
button,
G's just
nobody.
said that. Yeah, Gillian G's just said that. You've got to also have a look at the lads that we're feeding in the ball. Maxi on one side and Miggy on the other.
Do you think there's a worry with Wissa at this point as well, that he turns into the Gay of last season, in that we just keep going and going and going, and there's a chance, even if we went in at 50 million, Brentford would say, no, we want the 60 million still. You know what I mean? It's looking like it's turned into that sort of scenario again.
Yeah, Yoane is saying Salah wasn't comparable. Wissa barely improves us. Now, do you say Wissa was an improvement on Wilson, if it was done? Because that's the player that we're obviously looking at replacing, isn't it?
Wilson at the same age, or Wilson now?
Well, we got Wilson at 28.
That's what I'm saying. Wilson at the same age when we bought him, or Wilson now?
Which is
When
we bought Wilson, he was almost as old as Wissa is now.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you compare Wilson to Wissa at their age, you would rather have Wilson at the age Wissa's at now. But if you compare Wilson at the age when we've got rid of him to Wissa, you'd rather have Wissa now.
Yeah,
it's two different answers.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but like I said, at the end of the day, I still see a massive improvement from the Wilson.
I just see a massive improvement from Wissa to Asula, and that's what we're looking at.
Well, you've only got to look at the goal output, haven't we? From when Isak's not in the side, I've said we've only scored 1 goal. That's from a penalty when Isak's not played.
The thing about Wissa is, I'm going to steal one of Big Yinks's saying, but he says that he operates well in chaos, and that is true. Now, there's crossing the ball and there's putting it in the mixer. They're two different things. And I think we're almost preempting that Wissa slides into the team and all of a sudden scores goals, which I actually don't think will happen, because if you look at Brentford, Frank's style was very direct. At times they played long ball. We don't play long ball, and balls are dropping about in the box, and Wissa will do an instinctive finish. I've seen him flicking his leg out and doing all kinds of different types of finishes. We don't play that way. And the other thing is, if you look at some of his periods
Maybe we should.
Right, he's been with Ivan Toney. Now, people think Ivan Toney's just a striker. Ivan Toney is good at providing goals. We saw a great assist for Harry Kane in the Euros. He's that kind of player. He can hold the ball up. And then obviously we've seen that he played with Mbeumo last season. Again, a really good assister. So we've got to look at that. Does he actually fit into our style of play? I don't think it's going to be seamless. Brentford use throw-ins, long balls, the lot. We don't play football like that.
No, it's a good shout again. It's like I said.
Fair comment.
You have to fit the player into a system, and I think you either get the best out of them, or you see the absolute opposite. And when we've seen it with Chris Wood, scores everywhere else he's been apart from at Newcastle. It is banged to rights. Again, guys, can I just ask you? There's just under 700 watching. Can you please do us a favour and smash them likes, please? That'd be great.
The like.
Here we go. Ads K1014. Thanks for the £5. It's a no-brainer to get Wissa in if we can get him under 50. scores all types of goals. Least he's not made of glass. The likes of DCL. Sorry, Leeds fans.
Sorry, Leeds fans, don't worry.
Yeah, it comes to something, isn't it, where we've just obviously sold Longstaff to Leeds, and I didn't see Longstaff in the Leeds team the weekend. Anybody else?
And we've got Terence Angus, thank you for the £5. It's ridiculous that the season has started, the window shuts in a few days, and still needing strikers. Indeed, it is ridiculous.
It is absolutely bonkers. Now, listen, I know...
Sorry.
No. You're absolutely... Sorry, Andy. Carry on, mate.
It was just a quick point on that one. I completely agree. And do you not think the major issue is who actually carries out the post transfer window analysis at the end of it? Because we've got nobody there to really say this has been an absolute balls up.
Well, I think Eddie does that. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
So I agree with that one. Soloth's not happy. He wants out. So again, we're looking at somebody who's got
Soloth,
a bit of experience. The only thing is he hasn't got the speed behind lines to break lines. So great target man though. I think he'd be well suited. I like him. I like Soloth, but like I say, not the speed that you want up front if you're isolated.
But if we've got them two, if we've got Gordon on one side and Murphy on the other side, do we need particular speed on the striker? We need someone
again.
Onto them.
If you're running diagonals, mate, I totally agree. How many times have we seen them run behind the striker? Not many.
Only Barnes, really.
Yeah, and that is what worries me with these two. I can't say with these two because I haven't seen enough of Elanga in a black and white shirt. His style at Forest was totally different. So for me, I'm still yet to see what he can do in a black and white shirt. And we may not see that for half a dozen to a dozen games until he settles into the patterns and the play that Eddie wants. So,
excuse me interrupting, guys. Corey, I know you're going to have to go soon. Have you got anything particularly that you want to add to the mix?
Yeah, I'll just add before we go. I'll probably head off after this one, but I think that we've, to be honest, we're going to get wasted through the door.
Corey,
can't hear you, mate. Can't hear you.
Your speaker's just all over the place, mate. When your mic, you're in and out. Can you just jump out and jump back in again, matey, just so we can get you sorted?
We'll come back in we'll come back to you when you jump back in.
Because, like I say, I do, as much as I hate saying it, I do want to get his views on the Isak situation just before we go. And obviously, same with you guys at the bottom there, because obviously the lads have done a lot of the shows, and as you can see behind me. So, Alex, tell me, do these promises vanish with the moment your agent leaves the room? He's behind me. Because that seems to be the next topic of subject. I must admit, I absolutely, last night when I was watching the show, and it was a great show, guys. Again, spoke with a lot of horrible weather. Apparently, is causing Corey's bad reception, so I don't think he's going to jump back on. But what made me giggle straight away was the reaction, and the message that come back from a lot of the journos was, and again, this is what annoys me with journalism, is that the way it sounds and the way it's written down about the divide between players, right? Creating this divide, and straight away, this appears on the screen. And I don't know whether there was a little bit of tongue-in-cheek from Bruno in his shirt, looking quite stern with the Newcastle badge behind him. Literally, as the announcement came out, and about 11:30 last night, when Newcastle replied to Alex Isak's, I don't know what you call it. I don't want to call it a statement, because it wasn't a statement written by him. It was a statement written by his so-called advisors, the way you read
Attributed to him.
Yeah, but again, it's under his name, so he's still responsible for it. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who wrote it. His PR team need a little bit of a stock take of the brain cell. But I
Captain,
just
my
absolutely,
captain.
I just love this. Absolutely love this, because that is the response that I wanted to see from the lads. And it proved to me, the camaraderie, and this is why I was a bit miffed, if you like, when it came to, and again, I still think there's a little bit of conspiracy here. I really do. And I know people are going to poo-poo this, and I said it in Tuesdays and everything else. Brentford want to sell Isak to Spurs. Excellent. There's Corey just coming in. Apologies, lads, lost connection. Thanks for having me on. Great show as
$7.99
always.
Australian dollars. Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Have a lovely day at work, buddy. I hope the weather gets better for you, mate. And to me, it's a case of, we now have obviously thrown the gauntlet down to this lad and said, you're staying. It's now up to Liverpool to show their worth. Now, obviously, I've said it again all along. I heard right at the start of this 130 plus 10 had been agreed. That's what I heard. And again, what Isak wanted was for Newcastle not to stop looking for players, because apparently that's part of the deal. Newcastle have to have 2 centre forwards, 2 strikers. Not saying they have to replace Isak, because I don't think they can. But what they have to do is get a player in that can support them both Champions League, Premier League, and domestic cups. And that goes to 2 players. And that's why I think it's important not to just overlook the likes of Wissa. He has an important role within this squad. But from what has been angled now, have Newcastle relaxed the reins a little bit? Because, for a couple of days, we hadn't really heard much. Apart from just Wissa in the background, there's been no other big names touted at all. Was that the reasons for this emotive statement from Isak and his PR team to obviously try and push us a little bit forward and, keep us on our toes? Statement did 1,000 things, and there's a couple of things in that statement I actually love, because he actually thanked Newcastle players, club alike.
Didn't mention the fans once.
But you just took the words out of my mouth. The one thing I didn't like was the fact that the lads that have supported him and been loyal to him, which is the fans that pay bloody good money every week to go and watch him,
to pay his wages.
Yeah, well, exactly. Didn't get mentioned at all. So, you see the kids as well now calling him Rat as he turns up for training. Really, really hard life to live on 140,000 a week to be called a rat, isn't it? But again, I wanted just to hear Jeffo's thoughts on what he read, his interpretation of it, and where do you think Newcastle go from here then? Because obviously, by all accounts, it swings a little bit now back towards Newcastle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, trying to join up the dots from the little bits and pieces that we know. I think there was something where he mentioned right now. And I don't know what that meant, because does that mean the door's still open? There was a bit towards the end of his statement where he mentions right now, which kind of means a bit like, well, is that just how you're feeling today, recently? What does that mean? So I took that as being quite open-ended, because does that mean things could be resolved?
Well, he followed that immediately by, that's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone.
Yeah. I think when we look at it, at least from what we know, if it is the case that Amanda promised him something, fine. But Amanda is gone. And I think we slightly discussed it before, because it was very similar with the Harry Kane situation. Isak should be pissed at his agent. He shouldn't be pissed at the club. A gentleman's agreement just doesn't weigh to measure. You need it on paper. If you've got an agreement, you need it on paper. So if there's nothing on paper, we're then not obliged to meet those demands or whatever he was promised. And someone sent me a graphic that I think Sky had put on, and it was talking about the UEFA 70, the wage to revenue ruling.
70%.
And you could
Yeah.
see that Villa were on 97%. And I think we're on, is it 67% or something like that? 68%. I think we're very, very close. And UEFA, if they want, they could expel us from European competition. So I'm not taking this whole it's Paul Mitchell's fault, because at the end of the day, he's done
Well,
his
you
job.
wouldn't, would
No,
you?
no, I'm being serious here. I'm being serious here. The rules are you're not allowed to go over 70%. That's the UEFA ruling.
Yeah,
So if we were to give Isak 300 grand a week, we would be in breach of that unless we sell any assets, and we could be expelled from the Champions League.
yeah.
Right? So
Absolutely spot on.
it's
Yeah,
not on him. It's between the agent and Isak. They should have got that contract ironclad. If you're not happy with the terms, do a renegotiation. You can't go off gentlemen's agreements. It's just not solid enough. So I think they have to look at that. He has to look at himself and his setup and his agent and who he's got around him. Do I think he deserves a new contract? Yeah, I do, because of what he produced last season and what the players we've seen, like Gordon, that are getting more than him. So, but it is what it is. I think it's gone too far now. Liverpool have to pay the fee, and actually, I do question Liverpool's motives. Like, are they actually genuine? If they really want the player, they would have put in a better offer than 110 million. So that speaks volumes for me.
Mm.
Can I just make a quick point on the statements that
Yeah.
statements that have been made? I think Newcastle's obviously is a really professional statement, really good, really well wrote. Isak's is a little bit more not so. However, in Isak's statement, he doesn't say that he doesn't state what the promises were that were made
Or by who?
or by who. But
Mm.
what he does say is that promises were made. In the Newcastle statement, they're very specific to say no promise was made in regards to him being allowed to leave the club.
Ooh.
So, why did if Newcastle if another promise has been it sounds to me like another promise has been made to him, because why didn't they just come out and say no promises have been made to
Well,
Isak whatsoever?
Isak's statement says, even though about how people have been saying stuff, even though they know it doesn't, and this is referring to Newcastle now,
Yeah.
even though they know it doesn't reflect what was really said and agreed behind closed doors.
But he doesn't say that's down to him being promised a transfer. He says that promises were made and have been broken. Newcastle have said we never promised him that he could move away from the club.
Newcastle said no commitment has ever been made by a club official that Alex can leave Newcastle United this
Why
summer.
doesn't that statement say Newcastle haven't made Alexander any promises they haven't kept? Which is what his statement's saying.
That's why I said, because the person who apparently made the comment is now not at the club, which is Amanda Staveley. It was Amanda Staveley, according to the reports and everything else, that said to Alexander Isak, we will look to better your contract at the end of the season. And obviously she got pushed where she had to sell her how many percentage of her shares to the club, to the Arabs. To the Saudis, and that is literally how it is, and that's what I said. Now, I'm going to ask you, Jeffo, because again, this is something I've been thinking about today, listening to a lot of the chat, reading a lot of the chat, and everything else. Do you not think it's a little bit of a coincidence that the person that, again, I quite agree with your statement, so I'm not going to go against what you said there about the European laws. about the wages and everything else. But do you not think it's coincidental that the lad left, knowing full well that this was potentially, again, if you go on to what Isak has put in his statement, the club knew in advance of my position or something of those words. Do you not think it's funny how Mitchell decided just to leave the club at the most crucial point, knowing full well that this episode could happen? Do you not think he has got some blame somewhere?
I don't know. It might be a situation where he might have thought, well, okay, my replacement can deal with this,
But
because
that's like jumping ship, though, isn't it?
that's what people do. They pass the buck, don't they? And I think there's
Yeah.
something there about liability, because we've seen it with Mandy. As much as we loved Mandy and everything she brought, her actions also resulted in us having to sell Minte and Anderson, although I would have rather sold Gordon for those two, in my opinion. But look at win there. But so,
Well, the whole point is
uh,
Amanda at the time believed that Man City were coming in with 100 million for Bruno, and that would have solved all of the problems. And then that didn't happen. So that was what Jay
there's a
would
lot of
rely on.
gambles. There's a lot of gambles here, and it's dangerous territory now. So let's just say Mitchell had granted that 300k increase. When we do go over the 70%, we qualify for the Champions League, and let's just say UEFA, because we've seen it. UEFA aren't playing about at the moment. We've seen what they did
No.
with Leon and with Crystal Palace. They say, right, guys, you're expelled from European competition, or we relegate you to the Europa League. Everyone would have been like, oh, Mitchell, blah, blah, blah. You should be in control of the wages. You should not. So, it's neither here nor there. Personally, I've said it. We
It
should
would
be facilitating player sales anyway to
Mm.
afford anything, whether it's an additional player, more wages, whatever it is.
First of all, I don't believe for 1 second that Amanda promised him anywhere near £300,000 a week. So you'd be talking about, I would think at the time, bear in mind when we're talking about, you'd be talking about £200,000 a week, which would have made him comfortably the highest earner at the club. Comfortably the highest earner at the club. And so you're talking about 80 grand a week. So you're talking about £4 million. £4 million a year, as far as UEFA was concerned. The UEFA 70% was concerned. That wouldn't have been a problem. So I don't think that comes into it. However, I will kind of defend Mitchell insofar that his argument was, with the PSR restrictions that we've got, you've got, because again, bear in mind, at the time, he had 4 years left on his contract. He just bloody signed the contract he was on. He had 4 years on it. I have more pressing matters than you, Isak. Sorry. And I can't decry him for doing that.
No, I mean, Pop Mags has just put in there that, he can't believe that I keep blaming Mitchell. Listen, there ain't a conspiracy for me. Like I said, I was one of the people that shouted for Mitchell's name even before he was linked to the club because of what he's done. The way I look at it is there's far too many coincidences that's happened that hasn't gone in Newcastle, as in in favour of our team. I love what he's done at academy level. I love what he's done for the girls' team and everything else. But to me, there's far too much happened with this first team, and we are starting to see a lot more happening from the powers within now that haven't done the job that that were paid to do. I mean, Mitchell didn't even do a year. Let's not grumble about this. He didn't even do a year of his contract before he decided that it was a decision from both parties for him to leave. It's just to me, it's not a conspiracy theory. There's just too many coincidences for him just to walk out the door. It's as if he knew there was going to be a shitstorm coming full force. His name is going to be mentioned in more than one scenario against this. So again, there ain't no smoke without fire, guys, and that's the way I look at it. And like I said, it's not that I want to blame him, but again, I can't understand how a player in his or a person in his position, and this goes for Darren Eales as well, another person in power position can allow this shit to happen and get us into the situation where we are now, less than 2 weeks away from a deadline, and we haven't got a single striker at the club that wants to play in a black and white shirt.
Well,
That to
I'm
me
going to end
is a
up
problem.
here shooting myself in the foot according to the two below me, because the idea that Mitchell walked away with knowing that all this was going on is bollocks. Mitchell didn't walk away. Eddie forced Mitchell out the door.
What?
Pure and simple.
What? Are you hearing this, guys?
But as for what a great job Mitchell.
Oh my God!
What a great job Mitchell did for the academy. We have no idea whether that's true or not until such time as we see what happens with the talent which Mitchell has introduced to the academy. And Jefferson will say, but Eddie will not play Mitchell.
Can I just say as well, this I know this scenario is crap and it's rubbish for Eddie as a coach, but it's played really well into his hands as the person who's been looking after transfers, because nobody now is sitting having a go at Eddie over anything. They just everything is down to Isak, down to the club, and nobody's now discussing the fact that you've just actually said he got rid of Mitchell.
Yeah, but he didn't get rid of Eales.
No, but you've just said he got rid of Mitchell.
Absolutely. Well, I'm pretty certain in my own mind that he did.
I agree with you. But in which case he's absolutely screwed up this transfer window.
Well, I mean,
no, he's identified all of the players that we've tried to sign and failed.
But he's in charge of it because he got rid of Mitchell. You've just said it.
No, he's not.
So who's in charge of it if he got rid of
Mitchell?
Well,
that's the point. Nobody knows who's in charge right now.
Come on, Chris, you're better than that, mate. Come on. Come on, mate.
Like I said, he was just in the chat there saying, Mitchell was to blame for not giving Isak a contract. I mean, it is really strange. We find ourselves in a really crap situation, all because. And listen, we can point the finger. That's what I keep saying. We can point the finger of blame at a number of things here, and it's not going to get us in any further forward situation. Now, going on to the Eddie Howe subject, wasn't a bad performance against Aston Villa with all the shit that's going on, right? So again, I have to sometimes tip my cap and say, good on the lads for performing with all this shit going on.
Gary's saying that. Can we start splitting Eddie Howe from Eddie Howe, the coach, who I don't think anybody... He's got his weaknesses, and I don't think anybody...
we saw that the weekend.
But exactly. But he is a good coach. He's a really good coach, and I want him to stay as a coach. I think what we need to start discussing is it not him as a coach. Say that that's his role and that's great. What he shouldn't be is in charge of transfers and things like that.
But it's like I keep saying to you,
he shouldn't be in charge of the actual mechanics of the transfer.
He shouldn't be in charge.
Definitely be in charge of who he wants in.
No, he should have a say in who he wants in. When he shouldn't be in charge of that. This director of football should be in charge. As I say, Eddie Howe is a coach, no issues with whatsoever. So I know people keep saying I hate Eddie Howe. I don't. I think he's a great coach, and I think that's his forte. What I don't think he should be is in charge fully of transfers. He shouldn't be. He shouldn't have final say on who comes in. There should be a director of football who has that say.
A harsh lesson, I think we've learned, and I just hope we don't make it again. I think, but that comes down to
you shouldn't go into a transfer window without a CEO.
the owners need to lay down the law
You
and
shouldn't
say,
want.
this is how it's going to be from now on, guys. You've had your go.
Yeah.
It's been okay. We can do better. We want to move in an upwards trajectory. This is the structure. You got your CEO, you got your DOF, and rightfully so, your head coach, not manager, head coach reports into the DOF. You're looking at Nuno Espirito Santo and newly promoted Edu at Forest, and they've had a wonderful window. There's none of this politics going on. Just get on with it. And Eddie,
it's been
let's see how
fantastic.
good. Let's
Eddie's
see
ego
how good the
too
window
much,
is
man.
after 10 games.
It's a great window.
Let's see how wonderful
Great
that window
window.
is. Apparently,
Listen,
there's a new sign
And
anyway. New
that's
sign
why-
gone up in the training ground. Adversity is the anvil. Unity is the hammer.
There should just be a sign go up saying, "How can you go into a new season and not have a striker to play?" You know,
Yeah. Can anybody kick a football?
anybody could put a sign up.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I do want to go on though to a little bit of, I suppose it's the hypocritical way of doing it, but I do get a real sense that when you look at what the Alexander Isak situation is, and this really boiled my pee, if I'm honest with you, when I was watching this the other day. And it's the Jamie O'Hara and the fan club scenario. I'm going to play. It's only a couple of minutes, but I'm going to play literally directly after this another video of Jamie O'Hara talking about a similar thing, but against another
Different
player.
club.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Just let me know that you guys can hear this.
No.
not coming through.
It's not coming through. Right then. Again, this is what happens with my stuff.
Doesn't look great for
How's
a
that
player,
now?
who's kicking up a fuss and he wants to get out. There's been promises made, right? One to Wissa. There's been promises being able to move on, and to Isak. Whether that was a gentleman's agreement, a handshake, whatever it is, they've gone back on that, and now they're trying to hold their players to ransom. Yeah. What I would say is, there's always going to be Newcastle, right? They're going to be around forever. Brentford are going to be around forever. As a player, you get one chance in a career. You get one career. You've got to try and get the max out of it as you can. If there's an opportunity for you to go and better yourself and go and play for Liverpool or, Wissa's at Brentford, he goes to a massive club like Newcastle, you're crying at that opportunity to say, give me that opportunity, I want to go. And when a club's, holding you to ransom and saying they want 150 million or, they want 60 million pound for Wissa, come on, guys, let's be realistic. Wissa done a job for you. You said he could leave. You gave him a gentleman's agreement. You said he could, and now you've gone back on it. You could have sold him for 25 and it would have been done. I just think it's out of order. Because when the club wants to get rid of you, Tom, and I've had this, and every player knows this, every single player goes through this. When the club want you out, and you've got time left in your contract, they want to push you out the door. They want to shove you out the door and say, go on, move on, thanks for coming, we're off now, we don't want you. Oh, fans, he's got to leave, he should be gone. Right, but when you want to leave, and when you want to better yourself and have a chance of going to a massive football club, when you've got one career and it don't last long at the top, you're not allowed to do that. There's no loyalty in football anymore, and, I think, look, it's not easy, but sometimes these things have got to happen.
There's a couple of things for me that he says in that video that I quite like. All right, there's a couple of things in there that I actually think are true, but there's a lot of I think that is absolute BS because again, it's media driven. So that was his obviously his conversation that he had about Alexander Isak. And this is him talking literally about the player that obviously he believed should be obviously paying exactly what they should be paying for him at Spurs, obviously a team that he appreciates. So this is him again, and apologies. Hopefully you can hear this from the start. But this is, again, this is him talking not so long ago.
If Spurs do sell Harry Kane this season, it has to be over 100 million. Simple as that. You can't let a player of that quality go. We need him. we have to compete this season. If Declan Rice is going for 105 million, then, what's Harry Kane worth? I know he's in a year left of his contract, but a year's a long time in football. If you want him, you've got to pay the money. So I think anything over 100 million you can look at, but still, I think he's priceless for Tottenham this season. I don't think you should let him go for anything.
There you go.
Fancy that.
How about that then? And that is my point in a nutshell.
Yeah.
When it suits you and it's the narrative that suits your team that you support, it's okay. But when it's for anybody else, let him go. There's only one, you've only got one career and all this BS. And that is exactly where I feel we are at the minute.
And he also said, if the club want you, you stay daddy-dog. But if the club want rid of you, you go. Well, if the club want rid of you, it's because you're useless, pal. Clubs don't want rid of players who are any good.
No, but that's what I said. There is a point of it where I understand that, because if the club does want you gone, they will do everything in their power to make you uncomfortable to go.
That's right, but they're still paying your wages the whole time.
Well, they have to.
Yeah, I know they have to. That's the point.
Yeah, they have to.
That even though you are giving the club nothing because you're not performing, which is why they want shot at you, they're still paying you the same wages that they would be paying you if you were performing.
But I think with O'Hare as well, that there's nothing worse than people who argue the same side. They're both sides of an argument all the time.
Yeah, who does that remind you of, Bogey?
I don't know. I couldn't possibly say.
I'm dazzled. I'm so dazzled that Win actually agreed after all these weeks and months, man. Being at me.
Listen, Irish assassin here, look. Dave called for the welfare check. Winner's lost his mind.
What do you think I've agreed, like?
Eddie forced Mitchell out.
I've been saying that since he had Yasa on the bench.
No, Win, come on.
Hang on, Win. Not as soon as the transfer window started going tits up and you thought to yourself, I need to protect Eddie here.
Not at all. Not at all.
Eddie's over a bomb.
Eddie's protection is the fact that there's nobody conducting the deals. That's not his job.
Remember, Wim, one of the first arguments we had on the topic, I talked about Eddie's ego and this situation being detrimental to the club, which has slightly played out this summer. And you said, if it's so detrimental, so be it.
Absolutely.
Remember that? Yeah, you were back in Eddie's corner. No matter what. Oh my God. All you're missing is the hood, man. That's it.
So, I mean, it is interesting. There is some. I have starred a couple of points because there was a question from Prakash Patel. Thank you, Prakash. And guys, just while he gets a chance of thinking deeply, because he's very good at this, our Jeffo, when he gets his marbles in gear, he's going to have a look at Jefferson, which strikers suit our style. I want to ask everybody out there in Viewerland to give us a like, give us the thumbs up, because at this present moment in time, 118 with over 650 watching. Come on, guys.
Come on.
Please. Give us the thumbs up. That'll be grand. So, Jeffers, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, it's a good question. I was saying basically, based on our current style, someone who's dominant in the air. And I thought, well, not as a long-term solution, but Mitro could slot in for now. But I do think
Ivan Toney.
I mean, Tony would be magnificent, personally. I've always rated the guy. There was all this talk about he might not fit in the dressing room, and yet Visser's kicked up a bigger storm.
Yeah.
Another one, I'm sure I put it in the chat. Did I put it in the chat? I was saying Ekatike would have been perfect because he plays through the line. So if you notice, a lot of times with Isak, we don't look to go too direct with him. We can slip that through. So ideally, you're looking for someone that has pace, a runner who has pace. I think that will complement how we play quite well. So it'll give you two alternatives in terms of like leading the line. But ideally, you basically want a centre forward who's good in the air right now. until we change our default style of play.
That's a very interesting question from Jay. How would Bobby Robson deal with the Isak saga? Well, I don't know if I'm going to burst your bubble, but I'll tell you exactly how Bobby Robson would deal with it. And he would give him no shrift at all. Because Bobby was a gentleman and he believed in contracts. And if anything like that were to happen, and he was a man, he would give him no shrift. He certainly wouldn't protect him the way Eddie's protected him.
He's a great man manager, isn't it? If you think, I'm sure there was a story. I can't remember if it was when he was at PSV or when he was at Barcelona, but wasn't there that famous story about Romario wanting to go to the carnival, and he was like, boss, please let me go, please let me go. And he's like, all right, if you score today, then I'll let you go. And apparently he scored 2 goals or something, or a hat trick before half time, and he said, go on, you can go. He let him go to the carnival. So it's just that man management, isn't it? And the respect that he carries. I'm not saying like Eddie couldn't carry Sir Bobby's respect, but it's almost like having an uncle or something, like a family member. You wouldn't want to disrespect him.
We've got some breaking news from Greg's here.
Hey.
Introducing the newest product, the Humble Pie. Go and see what... For when things don't go your way.
Looks delicious.
I love it. It does, doesn't it? That's an interesting one. A name that I haven't seen before, Frankie Lounau Jew. I quite like these lads. Portuguese player, Guinea-Bissau and Portugal, split.
Another African.
Another African, valued at around about 13 million euros for Midtjylland, FC Midtjylland.
I've got nothing against Africans, by the way, just with the African Cup of Nations. If we end up with 2 straight, we're going to end up like Sunderland.
Are you sure he's not Dutch or French? The way I see it, there's no blooming Africans left.
Well, like I say, he played for the Benfica under-23, so it looks like he's going on the Portuguese side rather than the African side. But he's a young lad, just starting. He's out in, but he can play in a couple of positions. 21-year-old, plays as a centre forward, can play as a second striker, and he can also play on the right wing, naturally left-footed. There you go. Thank you for that, Foxy. Franquilino won't be at the AFCON. There you go, because he's Portuguese.
Guinea-Bissau. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's obviously parentage type of thing. He's got joint passports by the looks of it. But did you come up with your players? Because I didn't that you think would suit Newcastle, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying sort of Mitrovic and obviously Ekitike or someone similar to Ekitike would have been perfect. I think maybe, as Ginesta was mentioning in the chat, that Muniz could be a blend of the two,
Yeah.
Both.
Do you think then?
Have you seen much of Voldemort?
It's just the pace of him, isn't it? Got 2 lovely feet.
I mean, Voldemort is like a 9.5, isn't he? He's very similar to Harry Kane. Will slip in the pocket. But
6
it
foot
could work with Gordon and Elanga particularly, because they're 2 wingers that run beyond. Whereas, as we know, Murphy likes to cross and Barnes likes to link up. So I think it would work well with the runners if we sign Voldemort. He wouldn't be an out-and-out centre forward, though.
Oh, I think he would. I think he'd do a job. He's my number one.
I do like the look of him, but like I say, I just don't think he can get in and behind, because he's not that type of guy. He's the type of guy to drop the ball into feet, as you saw in the under-21s when he used to come deep. Then he'll link up play on the wing, and then he'll just go running into the space behind and try and pick up pieces. So I'm not sure whether that would be the way forward for me. Andrew Barwick has come in. Isak is referring to the contract withdrawal. However, he's worded it in a way where it could be interpreted as he wasn't allowed to leave. And again, that's what I'm saying.
This goes back to the ambiguity that everybody was referring to.
That you guys were talking about last night. And I think that is it in a
what
nutshell.
I thought the Newcastle statement did was knock that on the head.
Yeah, and me.
But really, again,
it doesn't state.
It doesn't state the fact that no promises have been broken.
No, but like I said, he also stated that he was never told he could leave. It doesn't matter about anything else.
I know. He never said that.
But what I'm saying to you, this is, I watched a program today where people were talking about integrity, right? And people were talking about moral high ground and all this BS when it comes to contract talks. Now, I've worked in an industry for 28 years where I used to say, if it ain't paper chased, it ain't been done. So if I wanted something doing, I'd write an email for them to get back to me and give me an answer via an email, because then I've got something that evidences both the wording that I've put to them and the wording they've responded to me if I needed to take that matter further. If I speak to somebody, and if it was Amanda Staveley, and Amanda Staveley had said to me, just to push him away, we'll have a look at your contract at the end of the season. Yeah, we'll have a look to see what we can do for you, better it. There is no promise there. It's like I said, there is something that he has taken on board. And like I said before, I do understand him feeling a bit miffed when there's lads around him being paid more. And he, you can say, virtually single-handedly, because he's the one really that's got us the goals. There isn't anybody else within that team in double figures regarding goals. Apart from, was it the second one was 9? Am I right and wrong? Last season?
Yeah,
Barnes was 9, yeah. And then there was Murphy, and then there was Anthony
Murphy
Gordon.
and Gordon.
So when you look at it that way, he has got a point, right? If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be getting Champions League money. You wouldn't be getting 5th in the Premier League. You wouldn't be getting, the Carabao Cup final trophy. So there's a bit of weight in what he is saying. I totally agree on that. But like I said, wording, somebody tells, it's like to me, if Wynn was to say to me tomorrow, Gaz, I'll be with you tomorrow, right? And then at 11 o'clock, he says, Gaz, I can't do it. Listen, he puts me in a position, and it means that I've got to run solo for an hour or so, but I'm still going to do it. You know what I mean? It still doesn't mean that I'm going to say to Chris, you know what, mate? Because Wynn can't be asked, I can't be asked. That's where I come from. It's a case of sometimes if you've got a job still to do, mate, you do it, regardless of
we need to talk in facts. And the fact is, a lot of what you said there is presumptions of what's happened. What the actual only facts we've got are these 2 statements that have been released. And the point I'm making is, Isak, I'm repeating the point again, but Isak has come out and said promises have been broken. And why didn't Newcastle just say no promises have been broken?
I'll throw it back at you then. So why didn't he say in his statement what promise he was made?
Because
by whom?
But I'm saying he could have. He doesn't have to do that.
Behind closed doors.
He's been quite in his statement. He's been quite professional in not naming names and not saying what promise it was. Newcastle have only come out and said no promise was broken in regards to him moving away from the club, being allowed to move away from the club.
You say
if they're counteracting that statement, why didn't they just make the point, which would have stopped all this being a question, saying no promises have been broken? From what they've said, promises have been broken.
Yeah, Nooney Gizmo here is backing you up, actually, because he's saying, come on, Gary, trust.
You're saying
right?
Isak's been quite professional. I'm saying he's been quite vague.
So
Newcastle have that. That's the point. When Newcastle will be more vague than Isak. Isak has simply come out and said, promises have been broken. Newcastle have come out and only stated one thing that they haven't broke a promise on. As I say, why not just say it? No promises have been broken to Isak.
So, because what if that wasn't in the room? Hang on.
Because within 5 minutes, of Isak making his statement yesterday. They got together, and within half an hour, they put their statement out. If anything in that statement was wrong, untruth, whatever, why didn't Isak come out straight away then and say, hang on, no, you're wrong. This promise was broken, this promise was broken, this promise was broken by X, Y, Z.
Because Newcastle never said that there was no promises broken to Isak.
Right, so why didn't Isak
they made it very specific that no promise was broken in regards to him leaving the club.
Absolutely.
Right? So why didn't Isak come out then and say, I didn't say about leaving in the summer. I said promises were broken, and these are the promises that were broken.
But I go back to what I wanted to say.
The point is, why didn't he just say? Why didn't Newcastle just say no promises were broken?
But this is what I'm saying. The people that made a promise supposedly aren't there anymore. So how can anybody prove that the promise was already actually given?
Well,
the person that apparently made this statement doesn't work at the club anymore. So again, are we waiting for Amanda Staveley to come out of the woodwork now to give her penny's worth and say, oh, you know what, it was me who made a promise?
No, because the Newcastle statement clearly states that no commitment has ever been made by a club official. Not to what's still here now. No commitment has, quote, no commitment has ever been made by a club official.
So is he making it
up? That's the point.
But no, that's just on the what. You don't get what I'm saying. That's
I
just
on
the one.
I get exactly what you're saying.
On the one point. That's just on the one point that
about leaving in the summer.
Leaving in the summer.
I understand what you're saying.
Isak didn't say. He said promises have been broken. So if they're responding to his statement, why didn't they just say no promises have been broken to Isak?
That's multiple promises, isn't it?
It is.
It's more than one. So you can understand why he might be pissed. There's definitely no smoke without fire. I don't think the club's wholly innocent. Something has gone wrong.
No. I believe that Amanda made a promises. What word do you use? Amanda had a conversation with Isak saying, we're going to look at your contract. You deserve more money. And then Mitchell came along and said, no, we're not. Is that a promise broken?
Well, yes.
Well, I don't think it is.
Did the Isak request come before or after the Gordon contract?
Well, apparently after.
After?
So
No.
This is how I've written it down.
The Amanda Staveley promise came before the Gordon contract.
Did it come before the Joe Linton one?
And before the Joe Linton one, and that was what Mitchell said. You've got 4 years on your contract. I've got other more pressing matters.
But again, we're going into now stuff that's been reported. The only actual facts we have are them two statements that have come out.
Yeah, exactly. But if you go back in time, right now, these are a couple of things, right? Alexander Isak was promised a new contract last summer by minority owner Amanda Staveley. Staveley, that same summer, is forced to sell her stake in NUFC. Newly appointed sporting director Paul Mitchell tells Isak he's not getting a new contract. Isak makes no fuss, makes repeated statements and interviews throughout the 24-25 season, expressing his love for Newcastle, the city and the fans. He then goes on to score 27 goals in all competitions, proudly celebrates winning the Carabao Cup, celebrating helping secure Champions League football for the second time in 3 seasons. Pre-season starts and Isak joins up with the squad and trains in the Austria tour, where he does all the in-house shenanigans, team building and everything else, expresses his delight when the club signed fellow compatriot Anthony Elanga. Liverpool make an informal move for him and Isak then downs tools, right? Liverpool at the same time rival and signed Newcastle's top striker target, which was Hugo Ekitike, a suitable replacement for Isak. Isak then refuses to join the club on Asian tour, apparently due to this so-called injury, and he's been training ever since alone. He tells the club he won't play for them again and releases info to the public via intermediaries. Reportedly rejects a new contract offer from Newcastle, makes first public statement after making the PFA Team of the Year, and accuses the club of broken promises. There's still no official transfer request. Now, again, if you was to go down that list of things that have happened, all in the time, right, that he was refused a brand new contract by Paul Mitchell, which, as Jeffo has already stated, potentially could have broken UEFA rules, which, absolutely fine. I mean, I read it a totally different way. I thought it was the fact that Mitchell was looking at the likes of Anthony Gordon's contract, because obviously we all know that Anthony Gordon's contract, he'd only signed a short term. Then you're going on to J7, who was coming very close to looking towards the end of his, and he wanted to make sure that the lads that had driven the club so well were hammered down again on the backing that Alexander Isak's contract had another 4 years to run, obviously 3 now. So when you look at all that's been written down, right, and all of the information, it's there, it's all in the background. And like I said, all these people that keep saying, Isak wants out, free Isak and everything else, why has it taken till now for it to hit the shit?
But there's one thing that the tail of the tape missed. There was the Celtic incident as well, wasn't there?
Well, I did. That wasn't written down where he obviously was sent out.
Apparently, he wanted
the injury that was.
He wanted to watch the game, apparently, and Eddie sent him home.
Yeah, because of the noise.
There's clearly, apparently because of the noise, but they may have had an argument as well.
Well,
because I don't see why they said it was to protect him from the media. He could have just sat next to, Park Sung-soo was our new signing. He could have just sat in the stands next to him watching.
He could have been in the dugout, mate. He could have been in the dugout.
Him being sent home made it worse, because all the media attention came and said, "Oh, why has he been sent home?" That sounds to me like there's been some kind of argument or fracas or a disagreement.
But you're missing the point that the reason he would have been in the stand instead of on the pitch was because he declared himself to have an injury which didn't show up in a scan, which,
But going back to the injury, the other theory was that he was told he was given some kind of promise he could leave the club, right? And apparently there's been a big change in his behavior between March and April. And April apparently was the trigger point where the club was, including Eddie, was fully aware that apparently he wanted to leave, because.
But you've used the very words there. Being told you could leave the club, and the club have come out plain as day and said he's never been told he could leave the club in summer.
It doesn't mean that they're telling the truth, though. It's all image preservation, because.
So if that's the case, why didn't he come out now and say, "I fucking was told that"? Because
particularly Eddie has been known to lie to us. We know this, but sometimes it's, I guess, for our own good, maybe from a parental perspective, because I guess if he tells the truth, all panic will spring loose, won't it? Fans are going to be really anxious. So I guess sometimes they do that to deflect, to keep things going on an even keel. But towards the end of last season, everybody noticed a dip in Isak's final 6 to 7 games.
Massive dip.
And that was post-Cup, which coincided with April. And it was apparently he had this groin or thigh injury, right? So now we've seen that this whole injury thing's been a lie. Were they lying back then? And does this then add up that, maybe that was one of the promises that,
Well, Alex, this also ties in with a conversation that Callum Wilson had with Shea Given when the players committee, the Byrne, Wilson, Bruno, Lascelles, the players. Union's a bad word to use, but the senior players, the senior players went to Eddie and said, "Look, Isak's not trying to happen in training. You've always said if you don't try and train, you don't play. He's playing shite. He's not shaking a leg on the pitch. Why are you still playing him?" And Eddie turned round apparently and said, If I was to drop Isak and play you, I'd get crucified.
But again, that's all hearsay when there's nobody actually came out and said that's true.
No. Well, everything we're talking about is hearsay.
There's two official statements that we've been talking about as well. So not everything's hearsay.
No.
The other point is as well. What you've always said, probably one of Eddie's best points is he's a great man manager.
Absolutely.
And he understands his players, talks to them. So what the hell's went wrong with Isak?
Well, Isak's obviously in a world of his own.
But wasn't that what Callum
said? And Eddie spent the last fucking, what is it now? Probably 4 weeks we've been on this now. Doing his best to protect him.
What you just talked about, wasn't that what Callum Wilson said? Was he with Shay Given and
when they were at the Club
World Cup? Yeah, because obviously he officially been released by the club, so I guess he was free to say whatever he wanted to say.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a gun to his head. So if anything, that's probably more the truth than anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, Foxy is bang on the head here. To be fair, Gordon signed a short-term contract from Everton. Isak should have done the same 6-year contract, schoolboy agent work with no release clause. Isak been getting terrible advice for years. The reasons why Anthony Gordon came over to us on a short-term contract is because he didn't know how he was going to settle in the club. It was a gamble for him to come to Newcastle, and which is, it's something that we all know the short-term contract was on the table because, again, I think that was an agreement from both sides as well because of his behaviour and everything else. I think it was a gamble for Newcastle as much as it was a gamble for Anthony Gordon. But it worked out. Anthony Gordon pulled his socks up, unfortunately, since his new contract, and obviously we tried to ship him out because of PSR issues. He hasn't seemed to have been the same player. But again, he's played well enough to earn a new contract.
Well, he was Alexander Isak this season, Fans Player of the Year last season.
Alexander Isak has been offered 3 new contracts up to yet, and he's refused all of them. So again, it's not as if the team, Newcastle United, haven't offered him, and as in to become a player to honour his years, or at least another year, or at least another 2 years. I don't think the club would ever stop him from going anywhere if, again, Liverpool were serious enough to come in and match a price that they believe is the value of Alexander Isak. And again, if you want to go to the Jamie O'Hara, where he believed Harry Kane was worth at the ripe old age of 30, over £100 million with 1 year left on his contract, you tell me what a 25-year-old's worth. So, wow. It is, like I said, I do get a little bit miffed when I again, I've got a lot of people around me that are Liverpool fans, and they all say the same jargon, and I keep saying to them, a player is valued at what they believe is valued at. And I remember, and again, forget.
Has anybody had a gun to his head when he signed the 6-year contract?
No, but there was a player, and I can't think of his, Javier, 2007. Javier begins with M, Argentinian lad.
Mascherano at West Ham.
He was a Liverpool player.
Yeah, he went from West Ham to Liverpool.
Liverpool, and then I think it was Barcelona coming for him, something stupid like £16 million.
Yeah,
and he refused to play one game and forced his move by doing that. But again, wasn't allowed to move until Barcelona. I think it was something like 23, 24 million in the end that he went for. But again, the player goes on strike. And this is something that I believe has to stop in this football. And again, is it something that they can write into contracts about, like in my contract where I worked, it was written down. I could not strike because it was detrimental to people's health, life or death scenarios. So in my contract, it was written down that I could not strike. So why can't footballers have that written in their contract?
Well, because that's a basic human right, the right to withdraw your labour.
But what I'm saying is, as a contract, then it's like no value whatsoever. Because we've seen it now on multiple occasions where players just down tools because they just want to move.
Yeah,
And if it doesn't suit them at the time.
Part of the problem is, Gary, football's such a different way of being employed. You can't look at it as being sort of a normal job. Because technically the only thing
But you've also got the fact that if you say I still don't actually believe that Isak down tools refused to go into training. I think Eddie's told him, I don't want you in training under the current circumstances, probably because of conversations he's had with the players' committee or whatever you want to call it. But
well, it's an interesting one.
Canadian $6.99. Cruz Scott, hello there, new name. Since Mitchell left, the club has been trying to get Isak to resign or to re-sign.
Yeah, I thought he said resign. I'm thinking what?
Sorry. There we go. Get it back up. Trying to get Isak to re-sign, not resign, re-sign. He declined. It's because the promise was about leaving. That's one way to look at it. That's several ways to look at it. The bottom line is, if the statement that the club have made is wrong, the club came out and made that statement on the back of Isak's statement. So if he is trying to say that the promises were broken, he needs to come out and say what those promises were and who made them and when. And that brings everything out into the open. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
You know what else?
You'd be the first one, or if he did that, you'd be the first one to say, "Oh, he's just getting into it. He's getting into a. He shouldn't be doing that. It should be, he shouldn't be arguing back. This isn't the right way to do it.
He should absolutely be doing that.
So you want there to be constant. Well, we're going through a transfer window and we're trying to get a striker. You want there to be constant.
Listen, there's no harmony now.
Let's finish. You want constant statements made by Isak, and then the club refuting it, and then Isak coming back again. The club, he's made a statement. And his statement hasn't been completely denied by the club, as I've said. You don't want them to get into a tit for tat, going for statement after statement after statement.
No, true.
I absolutely do. I want to know what the truth of the matter is.
Didn't Darren Eales, something else that isn't adding up, didn't Darren Eales do an interview in the start?
Every player's got a price.
Every player's got a price, and that we must lean into player sales.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's been out there for some time, mate.
That fits in line. And I don't think the CEO would have minded if we sold Isak. Same as what you mentioned earlier, Win, that we had that 100 million release clause thing for Bruno.
That's right.
Something's not quite right.
But every player's got a price, and 150 million is Isak's price.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not as if it's not common knowledge now that the Saudis have said from day one they don't want to sell their best players. But if people, and again, we look at Brentford, they won 60 million for the 29-year-old. You know what I mean? And you start looking at it and you start saying, if that's the price that they want, if somebody's silly enough to go and pay that, then as a club, you'd be silly to turn it down, wouldn't you? Even though he's got 3 years.
100 million foreign, 150 million domestic. That's what we should have done.
Well, again, you've got to look at value for the player. I see, for me, it doesn't matter what are we going to get in, even if we get £150 million, right? Just for instance, say, still doesn't guarantee us goals. That £150 million, if it's not spent wisely, doesn't guarantee you success. So, like I said, I think it's more the fact that Newcastle have put a price on his head because he guarantees us success. And that's why they're making it as difficult as they possibly can for this lad to down tools. Now, somebody's put in the chat, and they said it'll come to the time where Isak buys himself out of his own contract. Well, there's every potential that could happen.
Or hold his registration.
But then, how do you get your registration back?
He can buy himself out of his
Because he's still got 3 years, and the club will just hold on to his registration for 3 years. And like I said, then it'll go through civil court. And have they really got the money to fight against the Saudis? I don't think they have. And like I said, it's funny how Isak, as close as we are getting to the deadline day, he hasn't put in a transfer request because, again, people say it's not about the money. Well, if it ain't about the money, why ain't Isak put in a transfer request? Because Isak loses out on the bonuses. So, it's always going to be about money. And that's where, with the PSR situation, we are, unfortunately, crippled when it comes to players' wages because we can't afford what other clubs are giving players. And it's just fact. But again, I go back to what I started with. I do get a little bit cheesed off with the spin on some of the journals where it comes that it's splitting the players. Some players are on the side of Alexander Isak and some players aren't. And I wanted to end the show and ask your opinions on how you feel now that that's been mentioned, the fact that there is a split in the harmony of the dressing room. Because, again, I go back to what I saw on Saturday, the early kickoff at 12:30 at Villa Park, and all I saw was unity. Unfortunately, without a goal, without a finisher, it was plain to see. But there didn't seem as though there was any unharmony amongst that squad of players.
First,
how do you feel?
Admiral, unity is the hammer. I have obviously heard the reports of a rift in the dressing room between those for Isak and those against him. I haven't seen any concrete evidence of that anywhere. I haven't seen any names. I haven't seen names of any of the factions. I haven't, and I just say, looking at the way we played on Saturday, that looked to me to be backs against the wall, lads. Let's prove we can do it without them.
Yeah.
I think Eddie, the coach's hand. I think Eddie is the coach. You can't call him for the Villa game at all. You've got to say that those lads weren't split at all. They were fully. They'd obviously listened to him in training because they've followed the game plan and they've done what he wanted. He's in game management again. You can't question, but
from the sending off, you can argue.
Yeah, but the players have followed what you can see from that game that they've followed what he said. So again, I think it's press talk about a split in the changing room.
Yeah, but Pokey, in terms of those interviews, I think Byrne evidently was sort of talking about them having a united front, us and them, us against everyone else, and siege mentality. I think Gordon talked about, and I think there was something about focusing on us, and I think it was very evident the way they were talking indirectly that. Yeah. They sort of made
galvanizing the dressing room.
And then the way that you could see both Joe Linton and Bruno reacting on Instagram, I think Bruno, like Gary said, literally almost instantly had done that. And I think there was another one that Bruno had done earlier in the window as well. I think he showed something from the cup final. It was either Bruno or Joe Linton. I can't remember which one. So I think they've shown that. But yeah, I'm a penny for Ilanga's thoughts, because he probably, part of the reason he came was to play with Isak. I doubt he was privy to the fact Isak wanted to move. and also maybe the fact that it's not really held any weight in terms of him wanting to stay. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's neither here nor there whether Elanga's around.
I tell you one thing I don't like is this whole talk, and it's obviously true that there's a leadership group in the squad. That's probably the thing that'll split them, that split the squad more. I don't like that idea of there being a leadership squad in there. Fair enough, you can have players who are senior
But
players
it
who
stood us
talk.
in
No,
pretty
no,
good
no,
stead so far.
no. But you can have players who talk to the younger players and help them. But I think the having a leadership squad, it just never rings right in my head that's part of it.
It's a modern thing, Boki. I
Sounds
think
brilliant to
a lot,
me.
That's it, 'cause I'm
a lot,
not modern.
a lot. It's not just a Newcastle thing. A lot of managers do this now because of the requirements of a manager's role. It's just too much. So having a leadership group as the eyes and ears in the dressing room, they have, I don't know if it's weekly meetings or when they're able to report back to them, but I think it worked in terms of, if you remember, was it after the Palace result? Um,
Brentford.
was it Brentford?
Brentford.
And particularly Bruno and Gordon gave their interviews where they wasn't against Eddie Howe, but they were making it clear to say something's not right, we're not happy, and we need to talk about this. It's evident that that leadership group then knocked on the boss's door and said, listen, number one, Tonali needs to be starting. Number two, we've got some ideas to help you. Like, let's try a few different things. So
As
it
I say,
can,
it's
can be
just
positive.
I'm just raising that as personal opinion. You've got a club captain, and the club. I understand the club captain has the boss's ear, but having a group of players, as I say, that it just to me could cause a split in the squad. In that, what if one of the outside of that group disagree with what they're saying, and if
Because remember, we had it before. Callum Wilson was in there. Even
Yeah.
Matt Ritchie. Matt Ritchie used
Matt
to be
Ritchie, Callum
Matt Ritchie
Wilson,
as well.
Lascelles, Trippier, of course,
would you endorse
Bradburn.
just obviously with Gary being a coach, would you have endorsed that as a coach, Gary?
Would I have in? We've always had.
You've always had senior players who've got a bit more of a say, but actually having a technical group of them.
Yeah, I mean, the modern game has changed massively, mate. Because the problem is now, as a coach, it's a 24/7 job. When you delve into what you have to find out about opposition, players, and everything else, and you think about as a coach now, and Eddie Howe, we all know the type of coach he is, where he looks at individuals and he gets to know players' wives, family, and things like that. He wants to know the background. So I think in the modern era, I think you do need to branch out a little bit, and it just helps you concentrate on the on-field matters a little bit more. If you've got, and again, it's about trust. And I know somebody's put in there about the trust that has to happen between club and player. And that's broke down between Isak and the club at the moment. And again, it's that rebuilding of that trust. So is Isak going to come back? There's got to be a lot of rebuilding done. How do you rebuild it? Well, you rebuild it by players that have close links with him. Elanga, being a countryman and everything else, he's the ideal person to go and start that ball rolling to try and get his head back into the positive sounds. And unfortunately, we haven't got Doc Omar with us tonight, but you have got to start thinking about when a player is only ever involved in negative noise about what's happening at Newcastle, being advised. And again, you've only got to look at the amount of professional bodies that have quoted about how unprofessional Isak has been during this period of time. You ain't got to listen to anybody else. Isak, unfortunately, has taken this stand away from the group, and hence why, again, Jeff O said before, was there before the Celtic game some words being spoken between Eddie and Isak? Was there some unrest? And Eddie wanted that away from the rest of the group, hence he was sent home. We won't know that because, again, we've only really heard from Eddie Howe. He wanted to protect him. And that's something else I get a bit sketchy over because I do think players, need to be held to question,
Accountable.
and accountable with their actions. So again, this is why I said the PFA need to do something about players being able to down tools, and it then rests upon their parental club to deal with the crap. And again, that's why if you think about where we've come from, back in my day, there was never psychologists on board. There was never. It was your captain that motivated you. It was your team talk. There was
yes.
Yeah, exactly. There was loads of people that could motivate you. And 9 times out of 10, it was the team that you were playing used to motivate you, especially
Who's going to motivate all the people watching here to hit the like button? Come on, folks.
But we've always had those players that would be able to bridge the gap, if you like, between back then it was the manager, not coaches.
You've always had senior players, as I say, and that's fine. And you've always had the captain, vice captain who can do. As I say, the thing for me is you're creating 2 different groups of players. You've got this leadership team, and you've got a team of. I just don't like the idea of it being given a name. I think it should just be that you've got senior players who, have a little bit more influence around the place, and that's natural in any workplace. But you wouldn't have people.
They're called supervisors, aren't they, with white coats?
Well, that's it. You then wouldn't have, like, in different teams. You wouldn't say, "Oh, because you've been here a little bit longer, you're sort of you've got my ear more than this person."
Well, you've only got to look at Dan Burn. Dan Burn hasn't been at the club for a long time, even though he's from the local area. I think what you get there is a different camaraderie. You get that passion, you get that drive. And this is what I said. Sometimes when you haven't got players from the area, you lose a little bit of that love, that drive, that passion. And, we all see Dan Burn. And like I said, there's loads of stuff on social media with Dan Burn just taking the pee at the minute, And that's what I love, because it takes the repetitiveness of what's happening with Isak out of the frame, if you like, because you see him throwing the kids' toys up in the air and getting spacked on the head. He's been seen riding a bloody bull, one of these play balls and stuff like that. He's just enjoying life, and I think, like I said, you have to have both sides of it, but you also have to have a lot of trust from the coach to those individuals that are out there sprouting the good news and the vibes of the club.
I can't even believe we're having a discussion about whether a leadership group is good or bad.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be a split decision on whether it's right or wrong. But again, that's how managers. I mean, reading in the Benitez days, I didn't realise how poor Benitez was with man management until you start reading between the lines and how he treated individuals and players. And that goes to every single club that he has managed or coached. And it really is crazy how that works. Managers, coaches can lose the dressing room quicker than any other player or any other person in a club if it's not said the right way or they've not perceived the right way. So again, I always go with the 3-12s, 12 faces, the 12 words that come out your mouth, and it's the way you walk to somebody, it's the way you approach somebody. You always get a positive or a negative vibe from it. So it does work, but you've just got to read it right. And I have got a couple of more questions. I had starred, and they were decent questions. So Jay has come up with one. He said he believed the players are not wanting to come out, not because of the Northeast, but they think they will be limited on their greedy wage demands in future. So they say no to PSR at Toon. And like I said, that was over an hour ago. So apologies, Jay, to get into that one. And there is some common ground there now when it comes to, again, a lot of jibes from other teams or other clubs out there and fans saying, there's been 11 players now that have dissed us. So it's just not fact. It's totally different putting money down towards a player and something different if you just inquire about a player. That's not approaching players. But that's where we are at the minute. And that's why I said we are stuck with not just Isak
in the doo-doo
putting a gun to our heads and holding us to ransom. Every other club out there will hold Newcastle to ransom regarding the price as we speak now. It's crazy. 14.23. Honest question. As if it looks like Isak stays, what reaction are supporters likely to give him? He's about as popular as McGowan in the lads' hut at Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. Great. For those that never saw it, it was a great show back in the day. Everybody calls me Barry. Even he calls me Barry, the mighty win. And I'm sure it's from them days. All right, kid. I mean, like I said, for me, players, fans are fickle. Even though this has left a massive bad taste in our mouths for his actions and the way he's been advised.
He'll never be regarded.
He'll never be Shearer. He'll always be Owen. That's the way it is now.
That's it. But having said that, if he pulls that black and white shirt on again and scores a couple of hat tricks,
we'll get behind him.
Fans are fickle. Everybody will be back behind him.
Yeah,
it's like Yaya Toure. Remember when Yaya Toure kicked off? Because Man City forgot his birthday.
Yeah. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
I think if he does pull a black and white shirt on as well, would need to support him.
Of course we do.
Yeah, we're a club that sort of would need him. So if he's willing to do it, then we need to show him the support. I think the best thing that you could do is show him as much love as possible if he does pull it on. Sort of embarrass him a little bit in regards to
Tonali.
Yeah,
that happened with Luis Suarez, wasn't it? He kicked off, and then I think Gerrard had a word with him. He decided to stay, and then he had the best season he had there, didn't he?
Suarez,
and then he went the next season.
Tevez was the same at City.
Nice one, Vincent. Been listening from the start. Great shout, guys. Hit the likes, people. Yeah, there you go. Great advice. Again, I just want to finish the show. We've been going over 2 hours now. With something that, again, I think we've overseen a little bit. We've had a discussion, actually, the guys on this panel. It was brought up today on Sky Sports, and there was a little bit of good vibes coming from this, if I'm honest.
That makes it a real challenge. The one thing I'd like to finish on with the Newcastle scenarios, I actually think they've had an exceptional window. I actually think if you take away the noise around Alexander Isak and the fact they've missed out on a couple of players, they have done brilliant business. No chief exec, no sporting director. Eddie Howe has stepped up to the plate. They've improved the goalkeeping department with the signing of Aaron Ramsdale. They've got Jacob Ramsey in as a replacement for Longstaff, 30-year-old for a 24-year-old, someone that can play wide left and a left 8. You've got Anthony Elanga, who's come in for Miguel Almiron, who brings Premier League experience. His assist last season was sensational, and pace to burn and energy and enthusiasm for that side. And when you look at those players, as well as Malik Thiaw, one of the best defenders at AC Milan, one of the best defenders in Serie A, they've actually had an exceptional window where they've signed really good quality players that have improved their starting 11.
So is the Isak situation completely overshadowed?
I think so. I think people are talking about one player only who wants out of the football club when you've got all of these other players that are desperate to go and play. Darmish mentioned it. Non-Wissa has his heart set on playing for Newcastle United. That may or may not transpire to happen. However, he wants to go and play for Eddie Howe. There are players that want to be up in the northeast because of the type of football they play, how exciting they are to watch, the fact they've got Champions League football, the fact that the fan base is so passionate about their football club and their players. And I think all of the noise around Isak has left people forgetting all of the good work that they've done throughout the course of this summer. And that will be a real frustration for Eddie Howe. But I think give it a couple of weeks' time and the transfer window slams shut and the players that are there and they get the season going, eventually they'll all realise that actually the most important thing is Newcastle United. This is a football club with ambitious owners that have invested heavily. This is a destination football club, not a stepping stone. They have spent huge sums of money on the training ground, on the team, and trying to create a side that can compete. And they've done that. Last 12 months, silverware in the cabinet, Champions League football 2 of the last 3 years. This is an exciting time to come to this football club. And the owners will be saying, talk about how great we are, not about someone who wants to leave.
Yeah.
There you go. I just waited in the background for that one. To end the show with a bit of positive.
Speech, by the way.
I'm going to say, yeah, it sounds very much like you, that one. So that's it, guys. Like I said, there is
Finish
there is
on a
still
high. That's it.
there is
Go out on
something
a
to
high.
positive
If that
to
doesn't,
talk about.
if that doesn't encourage you to smash the legs, I don't know what will.
But there you go. I mean, I know you guys disagreed with us when we were talking about as the team improved, but
It's
in
just
my
Sky,
eyes, it
I
has.
think. It's
Can I-
Sky.
can I-
They're very
just
cynical.
one quick point on that. If I was-
Longstaff isn't 30.
Longstaff, I forgot about. He's a distant memory in my head now. If we've had such a great transfer window, how many of our new signs are going to play this weekend? Or they are Monday, sorry.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what the side is.
But I'm saying, how many are we expecting to play? Are we expecting every one of our new signings to play? We've had a great transfer window.
But this is where we're always going to come to a bit of a disagreement, me and you, Balky, because I don't see our starting 11, and I'm clouting Isak in that, will be changed very easily until the PSR ceiling has been removed. Because you're talking about players of high technical ability that could and will be poached by the top six the clubs. It's already been seen this transfer window are taking off the cherries, all the better players, all the better strikers out there because they're offering better money.
But
So
I'm not arguing on that point. The point that I'm making.
well, you are.
Well, no, I'm not. What I'm saying is, you guys are saying this has been a great transfer window. How many new signs are we saying that are actually going to play against Liverpool?
Yeah, but
the question was
how many
put to you.
How many substitutions are we going to make now that are not going to dramatically reduce the quality of the side?
So a great transfer window is signing bench warmers.
But you have to start somewhere, Boku. That's what I keep saying to you.
You start by trying to improve the team.
You've just mentioned the four-letter word there, team. There's no I in me, mate.
No, but I'm
individual players.
We've signed a midfielder for 43 million.
that was a lovely, beautiful one I heard the other day. There's no I in team. This is for Isak. There's no I in team, but there is a you in cunt.
But no. We've signed a 43 million pound midfielder. We knew we could get a better player than Joe Linton, and we haven't done it.
Well, how do you know we haven't done it?
Well, because Ramsey
is get a better player.
But better. Why is he not starting?
Because he's just. I mean, like I said, we've got to give these lads chance to get involved in the club. You can't just say because they haven't really. It's only the first game that's gone by, and this is what I said. Let them bed themselves into the squad. Let Eddie Howe have a chance to have a look at them playing a system of play. You don't just throw a team together without gambling.
That guy just said Ramsey's a Longstaff replacement. So Longstaff sat on the bench, so he's going to sit on the bench.
But they're replacements, so you're bettering the squad.
By popular consensus, our midfield three, which is J7, Tonali, and Bruno, is arguably the best midfield in the country.
But when you've brought up the point,
we know this.
Yeah, you've brought up the point that J7's injury prone, and we should be looking for a replacement for him, which I completely agree with.
And we've just brought Ramsey in.
So Ramsey's his replacement.
Yeah.
Well, that's where he plays, left midfield, attacking left midfield. But he's a more of a Willock.
It's the end of the night, but
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying to you, Boki, is just because you've got an opinion that it's not what you wanted, it doesn't mean that it's not an improvement. And that's what I said. I'm never going to bow down to an opinion that I don't believe is true because I haven't had a chance to see these guys play in a black and white shirt. And until I do, I can't say that it's going to be a disharmony or whether it's going to create more harmony within the squad. And for me, moving players on that were called Deadwood and Bruce team, now of going out the door, this is all down to Eddie Howe. These are his choice of players. And if he can get a note out of these guys to keep us in a Champions League position and vying for domestic cups, hope he does with the players that he's bought, while but under scrutiny, then all I can do is bid my hat off to them. They may not be the names that I wanted to see coming in the building, but under these challenging times, unfortunately, I think sometimes you, like I say, you just have to take it on board and say, these are your players, now go play with them.
But you guys say that obviously we need to improve the bench, which we did. But if you brought a player in who was actually better than J7, which we all, I think, would accept that we could have done, then J7 comes on the bench.
I don't necessarily accept that.
So you don't accept there's any player that would improve on J7?
Yeah, we've named them. We have named players that can.
Yeah.
We know that he's in decline. We're seeing the decline.
Yeah, he is.
He's in decline, but when J7 is fit and at it, there's none better.
But J7 would be the bench player.
Let's do this super chat, guys, please.
Super chat quick first. One each. Which signing are you most excited about?
Come on then, guys.
Malik Tiao for me. Malik Tiao.
Tiao,
yeah.
Ciao, yeah.
Ciao. Yeah, I do want to see Ciao. I do want to see Ciao, see what he can bring us. I must admit, I do like the thought of this lad because I think he's going to be a powerhouse. But
thank you, Tino, for the super chat.
Yeah, cool. There you go. I mean, like I say, I think we're always going to agree to disagree on that one when it comes to whether it's been improved or not. So I will allow you. Oh, yeah, I've got it while it's up. Terence Anchors, thanks for the £5. The Mighty Chainsmokers, thanks for the $4.99. Random Access for the member. Irish Assassin for the $5. ADSK for the £5. Terence again for the $5. Corey for the $7.99.
Australian dollars.
Cruz for the Canadian dollars.
The Canadian dollars.
And Tino for the dollars. Thank you so much, one and all, for your kind gifts. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And again, thank you all in the panel. The Mighty Win, Jeffo. Don't forget, when are you on next, Jeffo?
We're
the 90s
on
Max?
Sunday
For 90s Mags.
For 90s Mags.
Come
along. Don't forget to have a look at them. They always give you a canny point of view. And Boki was on there as their guest appearer. And we've had big Yinks on there
last week.
So all the lads, they do get them on there, and they do throw a decent show. So go and watch them, go support them.
Coming on as well. I hope.
Yeah, we'll be on. We'll be on. I'd love to be on. But until the next one, which is tomorrow, me and Win midday. Please join us. We'll have a look at some of them.
See if Isak's released another statement by then.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Very much.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Thank you again for all of your support. Thanks for the chats.
How are the lads?
Just hit the likes, guys, before you go.
Yeah, smash the likes.
Lassies and Bairns. Goodbye for now.
Ta-ra.